Well, alrighty. Hello, everyone. This is something new to me. That's also not new to me. Um, I have a podcast with a friend of mine, and here I am, kind of doing my own thing. Although I don't really want to call it a podcast. Everyone's doing a podcast these days. It's like this is more so just a place for me to get my thoughts out, if you would. Not so much like a video diary. I don't know, somewhere in between. Anyways, hi, my name is Khalil. If you couldn't already tell by the channel name, um, I just wanted to go ahead and kind of introduce myself more than just the name. Um, so I am someone who pays attention to politics. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is regarding politics, but it won't be just politics. If I have just a thought in my brain, it's like, oh, I want to talk about that. I'll probably talk about it. I'm someone who loves, let's say, anime. I love skateboarding. I love languages. I love, I have some love for academia, right? Like, just if I see something or if I'm like, oh, hey, let's talk about that. So I am also a student. So with that, it's like that extra amount of busyness. I don't know how often I'm going to be doing this. I would like to try for every week, because on top of school, I also have work, and I work actually in childcare. And I actually have a video on childcare. It should be up on my channel before this is. So go check that out if you haven't. If you have some kind of interest in childcare, whether it's you're a parent or you work in the field, I think it's a good video to go check out. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So between work and school, I don't know how how often these could come out, but nonetheless, really wanted to do this. Something else about me, real quick. I'm getting my thoughts get jumbled. This is why I want to do this. Help me process my thoughts. I do a lot of thinking, and because of that, it gets hard for me to express what I want to express. I was gonna say I am a martial artist as well, and I practice Wing Chun, which, if you don't know Wing Chun, it's actually a pretty popular martial art worldwide. It used to be one of the most popular in America, thanks to Bruce Lee bringing it and showcasing it. And it really gained traction, but it has since kind of died down. Now you have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you have Muay Thai, kickboxing, and boxing, and MMA being, kind of the mainstream things now that people often practice. Kung Fu in America has kind of it's dipped since like the 70s. But yeah, so I do that. I do some weapons practice. I have nunchucks and I have butterfly swords. I love both so far. Really just trying to get used to them still. And I've been doing martial arts, Wing Chun specifically, for about 4 years now. There were 2 years where I practiced under someone, and then a couple years of practicing by myself, and that just happened because I moved, and then I got back in it. So I'm coming up on 5 years within practicing Wing Chun, and I love it. If you are interested in that, go ahead and look it up. I put some of my training and some videos on my TikTok, which I will go ahead and leave a link in the description for that. And actually, while I'm on that topic, I will say that I have two other channels. This channel specifically is supposed to be more of like a education based channel, like just getting information on topics that I find to be important, or topics that I find to be interesting, even. Excuse me. um, so my other two channels, I have a gaming channel. Um, I used to do a lot more work on that. But I started streaming, and because of everything else, I don't have time to really get into the nitty gritty of editing a video. So on my from my Twitch account, I post my live streams on, excuse me, my gaming channel. So you can check out my gaming channel. I'll have that link in the description as well. And then my other channel is for martial arts type content, also kind of sketch comedy. Um, so I have a few on there. Um, I have some, including some YouTube shorts from like my TikTok stuff. Um, I have, I do have more ideas that I can implement to put on that third channel. But I do a lot of it by myself. I've done all of it by myself for the most part, with the exception of my fiance helping me film some things. So shout outs to her. Thank you so much. I love you. Um, yeah, so I have ideas cooked up. It's just about actually finding the time to film those, and then obviously all the editing process takes a minute, but you know. So yeah, trying to think if there's anything else about me to share. You know, if you have questions, just put them in the comments, and you know, maybe next time I'll be able to answer some of those questions. I would love to do something like that, or you know, put topics like, oh, can you talk about this? So actually, let me just go ahead and start talking about really what I want this go into depth about what I want this to be. Um, so I want this to be a again, kind of just a place for me to talk about um, things that I have on my mind. Um, I mentioned earlier, a lot of it will be politics because I do pay a lot of attention to politics, especially currently with what's going on. I find it very important to do so. And I get my information from a variety of places. Um, I have been using CNN quite a bit just because it is the easiest for me to use at the moment. Because New York Times is paywalled. I don't want to pay New York Times. So if I'm not at my computer, it's difficult for me to use that. MSNBC is it's okay, and I'm talking about their written articles. I don't really watch their news programs just because I think you get more information out of actual reporting than an anchor asking or talking about something, especially when you have like CNN putting someone like Scott Jennings on a panel that was it Abby Phillips her show, and it's like, why would you do that? Like he's just there to gaslight people, and it's like nobody wants that. This that that annoying little turd just says the dumbest stuff all the time. I'm gonna try not to swear, but I can't promise that I won't, because I do have strong feelings. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna be looking at politics quite a lot on here, but I mean, I do have other interests. So if you know, if there's like a topic that comes up that I want to talk about involving like martial arts, anime, movies, music, whatever it might be, then I'm going to go ahead and cover that. Um, Now, because it's going to be covering politics, I might as well let you know, like, I am a leftist. That's who I am. I can't give you a more specific definition of where I lie on that spectrum. Just know that I am quite left of liberal, but I don't know. I guess I would exist somewhere between a socialist and communist, somewhere between it. But it doesn't really matter. I want everyone to have a better overall life, and what I'm seeing now what I clearly see now and have been seeing the past 10 years or so, through my, uh, you know, what is it? How would I put it? Through my ideological development from what I've seen and what I see now is that things are getting worse for people, and no one wants to no one wants to go against the large corporations, the wealthy, to actually make sure that everyone else has a better standard of living, to make sure that everyone is able to live a decent life, so that we don't have to have poverty, we don't have to have medical debt, we don't have to have debt, we don't have to have student debt, we don't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to afford rent and my bills this month? How am I also going to afford food this month? No one should have to do that. Um, I want public transportation. I want uh, efficient and affordable public transportation. Okay, so I mean, I want buses to be more efficient. I want it so that people don't feel forced to buy a car because, oh my God, cars are so expensive. They're expensive to buy. They're expensive to for the upkeep for cars is expensive. Traffic sucks. There are potholes everywhere, so you might mess up your car that way. You have to deal with other drivers who often don't pay attention because let's be real, a lot of people will drive and use their phone. I don't know why. Um, there's parking. You have to find parking. There's mandatory minimum parking. Oh my God, I hate mandatory minimum parking. It is like one of the absolute banes of when it comes to our urban planning. It sucks and it's stupid. Okay, so I don't want to be forced to drive my car. I don't want to feel like I have to drive my car to get to work at an at a decent time. I mean, I used to bus back when I lived in Michigan. I worked in Ann Arbor. Um, a lot of you will know Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where U of M is, and I lived in Ypsilanti. Less of you will know Ypsilanti, but that's where Eastern Michigan University is. So I live in and they're like you just drive 20 minutes, and you can get between the two cities. They're neighboring cities. They just run into each other. The bus system goes through both. So when I lived there, I would bus because I didn't have a car for like 2 years when I lived in Ipsy. For like the 2 years I lived in Ipsy, I only got a car like the last 6 months I was there. So I would either bus or my friend would give me a ride because he worked on the same side of town that I did, and a 12-minute car ride to where I worked would become an hour and a half bus ride with three buses. Was it three? No, I'm sorry, two buses. Three, depending on which one I was taking. So I made sure to take the most direct route, but it's still an hour and a half nonetheless. And people often have to do that, and they have to take several buses to get to where they're going. And there just needs to be a better system of getting buses to where they need to go and getting people where they need to go. They have more direct bus lines, but we have to deal with all the car traffic. We have to have cars on the road. Well, we don't, and there's a reason why. And I might go into that one day because I urban planning. I don't know why, but like I have an interest in urban planning. I would never go into it myself, but I do have an interest in urban planning. Um, so yeah, when it comes going back to public transportation, buses, like let's get good buses. Let's get cities where we don't have to travel so goddamn far to places, man. I don't want to have to drive, I mean, right now I am able to not have to drive 20 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store. There's a grocery store kind of just, I have a Kroger just up the street, which is fine. But Kroger is a big chain. I don't really like chain grocery stores like that, except for Aldi. I have a soft place. I have a soft spot for Aldi. I do love Aldi dearly. Okay. But like, just think about, I just think about having a grocery store just kind of like in the neighborhood where I can go and get fresh produce, where I can, go get these things. When I was living in Ipsy, there was a food co-op not far from me, and I could walk there. So I didn't have to go. I didn't have to drive to Meyer. I didn't have to drive to Kroger. I don't like having to drive to those places. I want to walk to a grocery store. So like when I was in China, and this is obviously not just in China. There's other places that have this where you can find a grocery store with fresh produce like every 2 blocks. It doesn't have to be this big chain store to give to supply your grocery needs. We don't need that, but we are our society forces us to have that, and we just kind of have to accept it. But I think the more people realize, like, hey, it's like this chain actually isn't giving me produce for less, especially like the other thing too with these large chains is they throw away so much food. They throw away so much produce because it doesn't get bought, and they have no way, nothing to, no way. Sorry, let me rephrase that. They have some, there's a way that they could use that unused food, and that's to donate it, but donating it is not profitable, so they don't do it, and I hate that. Give us small grocery stores in neighborhoods so that we can go and we can buy that fresh produce. It'll most likely get used because everyone wants fresh produce, but nobody wants to have to drive to the store every day to get that fresh produce. So, transportation, trains. I want trains. I live in the 16th, is it the 16th, 14th largest? It's actually the 14th largest city in the United States. And it is one of the biggest cities, if not the biggest cities, that has no rail. No rail. Why? It makes no sense. And the only explanation for that is because the car industry. We have to sell cars. We have to sell gas. These two things go hand in hand. Suburbs. Build for suburbs have a racist past if you don't know this. The suburbs were built because during the Great Migration, African Americans started moving into cities for jobs. Well, who was in those cities as African Americans started to move in? Uh, White Americans were there, and they were at that point. They're like, "Hey, we don't want to live next to African Americans. We need a place to go, but we still want to work in the city. We just don't want to live here anymore." So you get the suburbs. Where the suburbs, the very early on, they had ways to get people from the suburbs to the city via public transportation. Scrapped it. We are like, this is a perfect way to get people to buy cars. So the suburbs are way out. Don't put buses there. Make people drive. All right. So it comes back to capitalism all the time. Capitalism makes things worse, and I really wish people. I think people are starting to realize that, but I want them to. I want it to be very apparent. Also, I think my mic is way too loud, so I apologize for the last 18 minutes. All right, so that should be better. I was probably peaking a lot. So, anyways, um, I was talking about rail. So I live in Columbus, Ohio. No rail. It's the largest city without rail. Um, it's very car centric. Like that's one of the first things my fiance and I noticed is like you kind of need a car to do anything in the city. Like my fiance, she will bus to campus. So my fiance is a graduate student at OSU, and she'll bus to campus, and it takes like half an hour because that one is a pretty direct route because we live in an area where there are quite a few students. We live off campus, thankfully. So those who live are upperclassmen or other master and graduate students. Um, and so they offer the bus. They have a good bus route from where we live to campus, which is great. But like we're from Ann Arbor, where it was very bikeable. And the thing about Columbus is when we first moved here, they were just finishing up getting rid of bike lanes in the road, and so now it's like you can still bike in the road, obviously, but they're like, well, now you have no dedicated lane for bikes, so bikes have to just share the road with cars. That's dangerous. That's just dangerous. In my experience, Columbus drivers not great. Excuse me. I have almost been sideswiped multiple times. I've almost been hit multiple times because nobody's paying attention. Um, Thankfully, I am very aware. I make that a point to be very aware of what's going on around me, so that I do not get hit. Um, where was I going with this? Because I was still talking about rail. This is what I mean. My thoughts, they get jumbled, and I start going off the rails. Anyways, anyways. So yeah, there's no rail. There could very much be a above ground passenger rail or even a subway. The city is huge. Um, uh, Columbus, like the metro area, is like almost a million people. It's very close. Um, and now here's the kicker with that is that when it comes to Columbus, you have the center, which is Columbus, and then you have all these outskirts. So you have some that are I'm trying to think. Going south, you have these outskirts that have more money than the inner part of Columbus, but they're still poor compared to what's north. So north, you have areas like Dublin, Worthington. I live just outside of what's known as Upper Arlington and just outside of Grandview Heights. Now, Grandview Heights, Upper Arlington, Dublin, they all have some money. Worthington, I believe, has some money. Delaware has some money. South, we got a lot less money, and that's typically how things get segregated, right? By finances. And you know what the demographics are in those as well, and we still very much have a system in this country that uh, treats groups and with um, lower socioeconomic God, what's that last word? I forget words a lot. Um, but when they're on the lower socioeconomic scale, people get pushed. The South, they get pushed into often essentially ghettos, and it's by design. It is by design. Those people are never meant to be able to move up. They're meant to stay in that socioeconomic status. So basically, what happened is like those those areas that have wealth, um, like Dublin. Dublin's a perfect example of this because Upper Arlington has bus stops to some degree, but Dublin has its own bus system, and that is because they don't want people busing in from Columbus into Dublin. They just don't allow it. They don't want that, and that's like cruel and unusual, right? It's also very classist and goes it pretty much crosses the border to being racist as well. But because of that, it's like that's also why we don't have rail. They don't want people coming in from the poorer areas of Columbus. Um, and Columbus is just so spread out. It's like you kind of need you do need public transit because of how spread out it is. I mean, if you don't have that efficient transportation, I mean, like I said, it's car centric, and I can't stand it. Um, they used to have rail that went to it wasn't much, but it would like go out of the city to like um what, Cincinnati or something like that. Was it Cincinnati or it might have been Cleveland? They used to have a rail long ago. They got rid of it. Now there's no passenger trains even to get out of the city. I do know of there being an initiative to get I think they call it the triple C rail line or whatever, something like that. It was basically to connect Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, but they didn't implement it. And it's like, why? Like what is the purpose of not having rail other than to force people to purchase cars and have all these extra expenses, right? Hate it. But yeah, it could do with public transportation, that's bus and rail. And so passenger rail as like just city rail, subway, or above ground rail like trolleys and whatnot, could totally do that. That would be amazing. The other thing though is like nationwide. I want high speed rail nationwide. Okay, I want to be able to take the train. I think that would be amazing. You have Amtrak, which is a public and private partnership, but you got to take the private out of it because that's how you just get everything's so expensive when you do that. Making it accessible to the public is the way to go, so that people can actually travel and use the rail system. People aren't going to use the rail system if it's $200 a ticket to get on that rail, to get on that train. And not only that, but like they might have to take multiple trains. And for a lot of people, it's just like I don't want to spend all that money to have to get on multiple trains, and it take forever. It's like it does. I took the train from Pittsburgh to New York. Okay, let me tell you, that was a 10-hour train ride. But oh my God, it was so nice. It's so nice to just be able to sit and look out at the scenery and not worry about anything. That train ride through Pennsylvania was beautiful. It was magnificent. Pennsylvania is such a beautiful state. All right. It's got a lot of problems, but it's a beautiful state. And so that train ride being 10 hours, it didn't matter to me. It's like once you get on a train and you can kind of just sit back, relax, look at the scenery, get on your laptop, read a book, do whatever. It's really nice. And but again, it costs a lot of money, and people don't have the money to do that. So if they were able to afford that, by keeping it public and keeping it cheap, people would take it. People would do it. So nationalize rail, get it all throughout the country, high speed rail, because Amtrak, and honestly, like Amtrak is outdated. The trains are outdated. We need high speed rail throughout this country. That's a great jobs program, by the way. You can give people jobs constructing passenger rail systems all throughout this country. Think about it. Think about it. You could do that instead of basically coercing people into joining the Gestapo by promising them $100,000 a year and a $50,000 bonus, making them feel like that is the only way to move up in their social status, right? Like that is wild and messed up. But we'll talk about that later at some point. So yeah, just things like that. I totally kind of just went on a rant there, and I don't even know where I ended up. I don't know where I was going. But yeah, I want rail. I want it nationalized. I don't want to pay some private company to get on that train. I shouldn't have to. Not everything needs to be private. That we need to get rid of these large. We need to get rid of large corporations. We need to trust bust, because you think you have choice, but you really don't. And I like to think of it like this: you go to a grocery store, and you're like, I want to use I like to use Oreos for this, because what Oreo is made by Nestle, I think. Um, which Nestle, I don't even think is the parent company. Hold on, let me. Okay. So yeah. So this is what I'm thinking of. So you think you have choice, okay? And I like to use Oreo because Oreo is Nestle, all right? Now you think, oh, I could get Oreos or I could get something else because, or I can get another cookie or whatever. And what you don't realize is like there's a company that owns both of those things, right? I can't remember. There's a couple of companies that I have in mind, like a Nabisco or whatever. Um, oh, here we go. This is more. Can I? Here we go. Where's where's the image? Here we go. Yeah, this is crazy. They own so much. I didn't even know they had. I didn't even know Nestle did dog like cat or dog and cat food. They do that. Um, so this is where I was going with this. Let's cut away from the Oreo because I can't remember exactly the companies, but like let's go to candy. All right. So here we're using Nestle as an example, and I can actually show this. This is really interesting. Um, no, that's not the one I need. Hold on, guys. I know why it's not showing. Okay. So let's like looking at this Nestle, right? We go to candy. They own Kit Kat, Rolo, Smarties. I can't read that one. Um, oh Mac. They got Butterfinger, Goobers. I don't know. Wait, I think I know Arrow. I don't know O Henry, and they have Crunch. And you think, oh, I could get that Kit Kat, but there's a lot of choices here. Maybe I'll get Rolos. Maybe I'll get Butterfinger. Maybe I'll get Crunch. Maybe I'll get the Coffee Crisps. Not realizing that this one company owns all that. Or go down and you want to get some animal food. You want to get you're thinking, oh, I could get Purina or I could get Friskies. I could get Dog Chow, I could get Beneful. Not realizing that you're not really choosing between two companies. You're choosing to get two different things from one company. That's not freedom of choice. This needs to be busted up. They shouldn't have all of this. That's ridiculous, okay? They got L'Oreal, Nescafe. They make DiGiorno, by the way. I don't know if that's on here, but I just learned that they make DiGiorno pizzas. It's not a delivery, it's DiGiorno. They make that. And that's it's just like there's no freedom of actual choice in this country. The only choice you have is to spend your money or not spend your money. And I would love to see companies broken up. Um, because the owners of these companies are raking in millions while their workers are getting scraps, and we as consumers are not actually getting a choice. What I would love to see is a breakup of these large corporations and see actual small businesses pop up, because corporations are killers of small business. We have people who are like, we have politicians like, I support small businesses. I support small businesses. Next thing you know, they're giving Walmart permits to build in a small town that was basically running on small businesses. Now those small businesses, now that Walmart is there, and those small businesses aren't getting business because Walmart is able to offer things at a cheaper price than those small businesses. Now, next thing you know, everyone in that small town is basically working at Walmart because it's the only place to work now. And that's how they do it. They're very predatory, and I can't stand that, and I can't stress it enough how predatory these corporations are. Um so I already forgot where I was going with that, But there you go. That's the heart of this. I That's the heart of these videos, is me just kind of ranting about things that I see fit. Um, so yeah, I really lost my the point that I wanted to make, but in it I made a better point. I'm getting messages here. I love my family. I don't even know where they went. Where did they go? What is this? They go like Ren. Oh, they went to Ren Fair. My family went to Ren Fair. That's funny. My fiance was supposed to go to Ren Fair last week, but it was like $40 for the ticket, and then the food is extra expensive. So she was just like, "Nah, I'm not doing it." All right. So I wanted to. I don't know how long this video is going to be. We're about 40 minutes right now. I wanted to talk about something regarding the current political climate that's going on. So I don't know, you might be watching this, maybe you aren't paying as much attention to the news. I pay an incredible amount of attention to it because um, I feel like there are times where it's more important to pay attention. And I feel like one of those times is one of the more important. You should always kind of pay attention. You should know at least what the government is doing. Stay informed. Um, so like one, I'll put this in here. One thing I want is class consciousness, and because people are more geared to listening to things about culture war instead of what the government is actually doing, it's very hard to get that consciousness, that collective consciousness. And I think people should pay more attention to what the government is doing, because if you pay more attention to what the government is doing, you realize that, hey, this is hurting me too. All right, like you have right now, farmers are hurting because of Trump's tariffs that he implemented. You have farmers who it is detrimental for them to be able to sell their soybeans, their rice, their what there's I don't remember all the plants, but basically they were like, say, soybeans. They were selling soybeans to China. They had been selling soybeans to China for years, and that is their livelihood. And the Trump administration just went ahead and put those tariffs on China. And then obviously China wasn't going to take that and did reciprocal tariffs. And then Trump kept ramping up the tariffs. These farmers, they lost out on a very important market for the most part, and they're hurting. They have no money. They are like, there's literally a push right now. Trump said he's going to take all the money from tariffs and give payouts to those farmers. However, here's the kicker: those tariffs, the supposed profits from the tariffs, are all in IOUs at the moment. It's all promised money. Nothing's actually happened, and that's the issue. I have done some learning about tariffs, and I am not completely against tariffs. I'm against doing tariffs, just kind of throwing them out like Trump's throwing out. It started throwing out tariffs like he was just throwing paper towels to hurricane victims. Okay, like there's no plan. There's no plan. Okay, you were just throwing them out, saying that this is going to boost the economy. Meanwhile, you still got people who can barely afford to pay rent, pay their bills, and buy food for the month. Like, come on, what are we doing? It's stupid. So, things like that is why I think people should really pay attention to what the government is doing. And I know Fox News is the most popular way for people to get their news. However, Fox News is not being objective on what's actually happening. They are all there for the appeasement of the Republicans and Trump alike. Like, they're not going to be critical of anything. And I understand, it's like people like, oh, CNN, MSNBC, fake news, because they're critical. But it's like, I personally have my own gripe with MSM, mainstream media, but like at the same time, like you don't even have to listen to their news programs. You can just read an article and you'll have a much better understanding of what actually is happening. It's not just because then you have actual investigative reporters, you know, getting quotes, getting stats, you know, without having to hear somebody that you think, oh, just hates Trump, right? You don't really know who their writers are, so you just I think and I think Fox News has really broken the brains of so many Americans into getting information in such a way that one um, goes with their personal world narrative that they've built, and that Fox News is great at that. Whereas, whereas, an, whereas like CNN and MSNBC, they are, you know, they say they're objective, and for the most part, they are for the most part. My issue with them is that they don't ask pressing questions. They don't push any boundaries. They, you know, they're because it's all about the viewership. So they'll have, you know, they'll have a Republican politician on, they'll have a Democratic politician on, but they want those people to come back. So they don't actually ask any hard hitting questions, and it pisses me off to see that. How can you have how can you have a Republican politician go on, do this interview, and they sit there and they lie to you about everything, and you don't push back? That's why, like, the when there is minor pushback, it's celebrated, even though it's minor. It's like, this is your job. You should be asking these questions. Do actual journalism, please. And it pisses me off. Um, so, getting away from that, I wanted to talk about uh, I went on a broader tirade about the political climate. Political climate is very we're in the basically in the thick of a very volatile political climate. So after especially after Charlie Kirk uh, was killed, assassinated. After that, the political climate has become very volatile, and is coming from it is coming from the Republicans. Republicans uh, are have used it to really amp up their rhetoric, and it is scary. Um, they are they're blaming the left for all violence, for all political violence, for all terrorist acts, right? Even though statistics show that the vast majority of domestic terrorism has come from right wing groups. They're completely throwing that for the Republicans, they're and conservatives, they're throwing that information out the window. They're saying no, everything is the left. Everything has always been on the left. They are violent. Their rhetoric is violent, and it needs to be squashed. You have Trump now signed his executive order. He signed two now regarding going after leftist groups. Okay, so he the first one was regarding Antifa, which is not a group but an ideology, is anti-fascist ideology. I'm an anti-fascist. Okay, I can recognize fascism just like anyone else on the left can. We have history. We can look at it. We know exactly what they're doing. I will talk about that soon. Um, so so yeah, so he signed that executive order. He signed another one just the other day for all aspects of the government to go after leftist anyone who's funding leftist groups that do terrorist acts, like this just isn't, it isn't a thing. Antifa again is not a group, it's an ideology. And they made it so that they purposely made it vague, as they always do, so that they can go after anyone who is doing dissent. But I'm going to keep on the topic of violence. So Charlie Kirk is assassinated, right? I think it was a month or two before that, there was the shooting at the church in Minnesota. Now that person, they claimed to be a radical. I'm trying to think how they said this. Radical transgender terrorist or something like that. The person, they did appear to be trans. However, with that being said, this person was like part of the Terragram, I think it's called. They had all kinds of writings on the weaponry that they owned that referenced other right-wing shooters. They had a lot of not esoteric memes and Nazi symbols. They were a Nazi. They were a neo-Nazi, and they were in these channels that that commit acts of terror. But they kept saying that, oh, this was a leftist. This was clearly a leftist. Why else would they have, Nazi esoteric memes written down on their weapons? That it obviously has to be. There was the murder of the Minnesota House member and her husband. They were killed, and and then another politician was shot. Them and their spouse were shot. They survived, thankfully. And before any information came out, the right was like, "Oh, this is a leftist. This is a Democrat. He worked for Tim Walz. He has to be a Democrat." And their Democrats are so violent; they're killing each other now. Meanwhile, as information came out, by the way, they dropped that completely. They dropped it. Some of them are still on it, but they dropped it completely. And they're like, okay, the information came out, was like, this guy was a right winger. He was an evangelical, right winger. And he had a long list of politicians that he wanted to kill, including Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. That doesn't spell leftist. That at all. And they dropped it. They completely dropped, for the most part, that he was a leftist, and so forth. But they're continuing on this idea that the left is the violent ones. The left, they're calling us fascists. They're calling us Nazis. This rhetoric is making it so unsafe. People don't like ICE. They're calling ICE the Gestapo, and they're calling ICE Nazis, and it's making it unsafe. When will the violence from the left stop? Oh my God. Well, guess what? It's not. It's not. The violence is not coming from the left. Like, most of the violence comes from the right. They use violent rhetoric all the time. All the time. Nancy Mace has been going after Ilhan Omar, calling her a terrorist, calling her saying that she's going to introduce Sharia law, saying that she's anti-American. And like, Ilhan Omar is one of the Congress people that gets the most death threats, the most credible death threats. Okay, Nancy Mace is an incredible oh God, what's the word? She is an incredible inciter of violence. Nancy Mace is, and she keeps going after trans people and Ilhan Omar. She keeps bringing attention, and this one is really scary to me too. She keeps bringing attention, and a lot of Republicans are bringing attention to trans people. the vast, like, trans people are only 1% of the population in America, and yet are they are a minority group that is put in the crosshairs so much more than any other group right now, other than immigrants. Okay, you got immigrants and trans people, and they have the crosshairs on trans people. Calling trans people violent terrorists currently, especially right now, when you have so many people on the right who are like the left is about to, the left is going back down when the right gets tired of their bullshit and they stand up. That kind of rhetoric. It's like it's putting so many innocent people in harm's way. It really is. Um, and and so you've got the designation of Antifa as being terrorists, right? A terror cell. You've got people going after trans individuals, and people going after leftist politicians like Zohran Mamdani. They're calling him a terrorist because he's brown and he's Muslim. I don't know. You don't know this, but you're about to. I'm a black person and I'm a Muslim. Like I grew up Muslim. I still identify as Muslim. I'm not practicing, but that's how I identify. And so you're putting the crosshairs on him, saying that he's going to do 9/11. He's going to do Sharia law. He's going to make bread lines. It's like that kind of thing incites violence. And they keep going at it. The Republicans keep going at it. They don't let down. They're saying that, we have to do something about the violent Antifa group. We have to solve that problem with violence, is what they are saying. They are all for state sanctioned violence and violence that comes from the right. They only care about violence if they think it's coming from the left. I want to say this real quick. There's been 47 school shootings this year alone. Charlie Kirk got a whole, they did a whole vote for a national day of mourning for Charlie Kirk. They had flags go half mast for Charlie Kirk. But nothing for the kids who had to lose their lives this year to right-wing neo-Nazis. Nothing. As a matter of fact, they joked. You had politicians joking about the killing of the Minnesota House members, and the one killing of the House member and the shooting of the other. You had someone joking about that. And then the right wants to go and say, all these people who have nothing to do with the public eye, just individuals online who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Well, we're going to cancel all of them now. We're going to do canary missions to cancel all of them. Oh, and on top of that, we're going to make it so that we start actually inciting violence against the left, because the left is dangerous. The left is dangerous. Why? Because they're anti-fascist. You can see, you see this and you're like, oh my God, that's what Nazi Germany did. Nazi Germany called the left evil, and they called the left violent. They did this. They went after the trade communists. They went after the socialists. They went after communists. And you see the parallels. You see the parallels, and I can't keep my thoughts straight. So I apologize. That's why I'm doing this. It's going to help me get my thoughts straight. I wanted to talk about, I wanted to give examples quickly of violence that the right is absolutely okay with, state sanctioned violence. America is inherently a violent country, not because of individuals, because any individual in this country has the possibility of doing something violent. We make it very easy, especially with our very little gun regulation. We have more guns than people in this country, and we make it very easy for people to get guns in this country, which is why we have so many shootings. It's not video games. It's not anything like that. But I mean, again, a school full of kids can get shot and we don't do anything about it. But one outspoken right wing racist gets killed, and all of a sudden, we got to crack down on this the violence from the left. By the way, the shooter, the Charlie Kirk killer, he's not found to be a leftist in any means. Um, he has apparently he was in a relationship with a trans woman. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. For people to be like, oh, whoa, you are okay with trans people, that's woke and that's bad. um so I wanted to show some state violence, right? Because this is the heart of the matter. We got to stop. They're calling uh they're calling the left violent, and the left is not. The left is only violent because they're protesting, they're doing dissent. That's the real violence, not violently this one. Um, so this Muse account, I can't stand this account. I have it elsewhere too. Um, but this account is very much right wing, and this is a example of, I can't remember. Hold on. Democrats are encouraging their families to resist arrest. Oh, this was I think in a courthouse, and there was a very upset mother, I think it was. He shoves this grieving woman down to the ground. Meanwhile, oh, here we go. Now it's playing. Oop. So I'm gonna stop it there. Um, Hysterical wife of detained follows around and confronts the ICE agent, who repeatedly tells her adios, then two hand pushes and shoves the woman to the ground in front. Court security is brought to remove the woman. People celebrated this, by the way. Can I find the one that I had up here? Incitement. Democrats are encouraging illegals and their families to resist arrest. They want. Oh, this is a different one, I think. Is this a different one? Okay, I thought this was the same one. This is another example of what I'm talking about. People and the people are celebrating this type of violence every day on Twitter. They see this and it's like, this is what I voted for. The thing about this is, like, people don't want to be separated from their families. Also, they're in the courthouse. This is what I mean. This is an incredibly violent process. Because people, like, they just ripped him away from his family. And I think that's why I thought this was the same, because it's probably that. Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at these agents. These agents right here they don't have anything that shows that they are agents. They are plainclothes and they are wearing masks. And that's what I mean. The fact that they ripped that man away from his family, that is violence. That is state-sanctioned violence, and they love it. The other thing about state-sanctioned violence is against protesters. You have all kinds of protests going on, from like No Kings to anti-ICE protests, you know, and people. First of all, sorry, let me go back a second. Laws were passed years ago. I can't remember exactly which states. I think Florida is one of them, that gives drivers the right to drive through protesters if they are blocking the road. Okay, and that is the state saying that this violence is okay because we don't like protesters. We don't like any type of dissent. This comes from red states for the most part. A lot of Republicans are for those types of measures to run protesters over because they just so happen to be exercising their right to voice their what's the word? God, it starts with a D. I'm sorry, I forget words. Uh, their discontent for what the government is doing. So you can run them over. That's fine. So the other thing is, with protesting, not only do you have politicians who say, yes, it is absolutely okay for you to run people over with your car if they are blocking the street during their protest. The other part of it is when they're doing crowd control, right? Peaceful protesters are out on the streets and they're not doing much. They're not doing anything violent. They're peacefully protesting. They're organized. They have signs. Um, when the police is given orders to disperse that crowd, what do? They get violent. This protest disbursement is violent. Okay, that we're talking tear gas, we're talking pepper balls, we're talking pepper spray, we're talking there's another non-lethal that's like bean bags, right? Those bean bags and the other non-lethal ammunition can become very lethal. There have been instances of people getting shot with those and dying from them. You get people losing eyes. You get people losing limbs because of those. You have tear gas canisters being shot into the crowd. This is not deemed to be violence. You know what is deemed to be violence? People kicking those tear gas cans and throwing those tear gas cans back at the police. That's violence. It's violent for people to bring in leaf blowers to blow the tear gas away from the protesters and back at the police. That's violence. Think about it. That's violent. But everything else that the police do is not violent. From violently throwing people down to the ground, like they did with they've been doing, and they did it with a someone who's running for I don't know what position she's running for, but she's running for office in Chicago, I believe. Is it Kate Abu Ghazala, which I love that last name. I love it. I don't have it saved because I was I was locked out of Twitter for a week. But she joined protesters at an ICE facility in Chicago. And what did they do? They violently threw her to the ground. And that is okay. And you had politicians celebrating that. They were celebrating the fact that Abu Ghazala was thrown to the ground the way she was. Then you had from the same protest, or from the protest from that same facility, you had people celebrating the fact that other protesters were being thrown to the ground, but also shot with I think pepper balls and stuff like that. People were celebrating that type of violence. So it's like it's not about it's about where the violence is coming from. The conservatives and Republicans are creating they're creating this myth that the left is violent because the left is dissenting. The left is upset at everything that's going on, and because of that, we get to do state violence against them. But not only that, we're not going to say anything if people on the right decide to stand up and do something about the left. They are manufacturing consent in which to go after political dissent, and that is concerning, and it should be concerning. It's exactly what the Nazis did. Why do you think people on the left are calling this administration Nazis and fascists? Because they're doing the Nazi fascist thing. That's why. Okay, so there were some other things that I want to bring up. I said it before, we'll say it again. Let's bring back the death penalty and actually use it. Nancy Mace. Public executions. I just saw this morning. This is fucking insane. Also note that this is one thing that Charlie Kirk said. Charlie Kirk wanted public executions. He wanted people to from the age of 16 up to see public executions. That's violent. That's incredibly violent. which I believe that this does come from um this is also the aftermath of what's her name, Irina something, the Polish refugee. Wait, no, the Ukrainian. Sorry, the Ukrainian refugee who was killed in North Carolina like a month ago. Right, the news didn't. Like, it happened, and it was in the news, and wherever it happened in North Carolina, I can't remember at the moment. It was in the news there. Then they brought it back, and this is another part. This goes with the aspect of violence. Okay, they brought it back. They made it. Conservatives made a huge stink about it. It's incredibly violent. It was horrible, and it shouldn't happen to anybody. The person who did it just so happened to be a black man. Okay, now I do want to say that, like, at the same time they were making a big fuss about this, there was an instance where a white guy also slit someone's throat elsewhere. No national attention to that. And this is important because they brought attention to that in order to show that, hey, we have to be tough on crime, especially if it's done by a black man. Now, I saw the video. I didn't see the actual violence, but what I did see was this man was like leaning on the window, and I could tell something was up. Something was up with him. Turns out the man has mental health problems and was trying to get the help that he needed, and he didn't get the help that he needed, right? They used that to spark something, to spark a to further their movement on Democrats being weak on crime. Democrats aren't doing anything about crime. Um, sorry. So, so they're using that. This is a catalyst. Because another thing that's when I'm on Twitter, I look to see what the right is saying, and they go through these cycles, right? So one thing that's in this cycle is bringing up or playing videos of like African Americans, like this a fight between African Americans and a white person, right? And they add no context other than, we have to do something about the violent black people in America, like and it's the cycle is basically saying that all black people are violent. They are inherently violent, and we have to do something about the black people in this country. And then, I mean, obviously you saw, like, they went into DC. They're about to go into Memphis. They want to go into Chicago. They want to go to Philadelphia. They want to go to all these cities where there's a large population of black people, because they think they're saying that black people are inherently violent. And so to deal with that, well, you got to bring in the National Guard. You got to bring in Marines, whatever, and do state violence against black people, because black people are so dangerous. They're so dangerous. They commit the most amount of crime, don't you know? And it's just like these this what do I describe it as? It is authoritarian. It's also autocratic administration that is just ramping up the state violence against the left, against minorities as well. And where we go from here, I hope it doesn't get worse, but I oh wait, what's this? So Democrats shouldn't call Republicans fascists or Gestapo or anything, because that could provoke violence. But it is appropriate to call Democrats domestic terrorist or domestic extremist organizations. Do I have this right? This is from Ryan Grimm, and this is why I say this one, because it sums up the point that I'm trying to make, is that Republicans don't like being called fascists and Nazis, even though they're doing the fascist and Nazi things. It's a parallel, and they're they had, it's here. That's here. They've crossed that line already. So they're doing that. They don't like being called fascist. They don't like being called the Gestapo. But they're going to turn around and they're going to call every leftist an extremist, a terrorist, and same with Democratic politicians. They're terrorists. They're allowing people on the left to do the terrorism. So we have to go after them. What is that saying? What is that saying? You're just saying that, hey, we are going to justify being able to do violence against our political opponents. That's it. That's it. That's the heart of the matter. I saved a lot of these. Oh wait, Democrats have built deep terroristic crime businesses. Yeah, here we go. America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani says the Trump administration must immediately use RICO laws to take these criminal enterprises down. This again, if this kind of rhetoric, if you don't want to be called a Nazi or a fascist, don't do the thing that the Nazis and fascists were doing back in 1930. Don't do that. But then to go ahead and say that, oh my God, Democrats are allowing for terrorism. We have to do something about them. They are actively encouraging their most insane constituents to decide that they need to arm themselves and possibly do more violence. That's what this is. I can't stress that enough. I can't. Anywho, we've been talking for more than an hour. I think we're gonna stop there. Thank you so much. Please, this is my first solo. Let me know how I did, what you think, what can I do to improve. Leave comments, questions, and yeah, I really like doing this because I have a lot of thoughts. As you can see, as you could tell, let me bring my face back up here. Hello. No. As you can tell, I get sidetracked. I start by making one point and I go right into another one, and I kind of lose myself. But I think in doing this more, I'll be able to stay on topic. So yeah, thank you everyone, and see you next time. Peace.